Peter Bailey, as the name on the channel shows down there. I'm trying something new on my channel here. I got a new instrument recently, and I thought I would document my process of learning it. But before I get into the specifics on that, I wanted to just talk a little bit about my background so you kind of understand where my starting point is, where I'm starting from before I tackle this new instrument. So I have been a great Highland bagpiper for a little over 5 years. I take lessons from an excellent instructor twice a month. His name is Matt Willis. He's got an excellent channel here on YouTube as well under Matt Willis Bagpiper. You should go check it out if you are a Highland piper of any kind. I also play the Scottish small pipes. I got a set about 2 years ago, so I have experience with bellows pipes in addition to Highland Standard, which is just obviously with a blow stick. Prior to that, way back in high school, I played a few brass instruments, principally euphonium and trombone. And when I was a wee lad, I played piano for a few years. So I had a decent amount of music background before I got into bagpiping. I'm currently the pipe sergeant for Metroplex United Pipe Band, which is a civilian pipe band based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, which is where I live. And I also compete in the EUSPBA as a grade 4 senior soloist. I had a pretty decent year. I got a few first place, a few seconds, a few thirds. So that's been exciting. I'm going to continue to do that in 2020. With some new material, I'm going to keep a few of the tunes, but I'm going to change out a couple of the ones that I was a little less successful with. And that's about it. It's a quick introduction to my background and on with what I'm actually doing here, which is learning the Irish Uilleann pipes. So Uilleann is just a Gaelic word for elbow because it's a bellows blown instrument. And with that, let me show you the pipes that I've got. So this is my set of David Daye Uilleann pipes. It is a half set. There's just drones, no regulators, and I have the black chanter with the F natural key. That was the only sort of options that I went for. I do have the bellows that came from David Daye that worked pretty well. It came with a really long strap. I had to cut that because it was just a little bit way too long. And I ordered these last winter, and I took delivery a couple months ago. I haven't really been able to spend a ton of time practicing them because I was focusing on the end of my competition season and a few things with the band. But now that I'm in the winter, you can see I'm sitting in my apartment. It's Christmas time right now. I have time to practice these, which is why I also have time to make this video. So, and quickly before I get into this, I can't help but show off a bag that I had made. I've got some great friends that are crafty people, and check out this fantastic bag. I even got a little laser etched patch there with my logo on it. Speaking of my logo, down there in the description or maybe a card or something, I'll have a link to my website and all my social media and all that stuff. Anyway, so I'm not really intending this to be a tutorial as to how to play because I'm just learning, but I will start with this, the sort of geometry of this instrument. I've watched a certain number of how to, like if this is your first Uilleann pipe lesson type of thing, and nobody really talks about how to wear it correctly and where to position everything. And it can be quite a struggle. I remember when I started with my small pipes, trying to figure out where the bellows went, how high, how low, how forward, how back, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what I've learned in the few hours of practice I've had in terms of how to put this thing on. So first is the bellows. So for me, when I play my small pipes, I wear the belt way up high. I should have worn a lighter shirt so you could see this, but the belt is here at the top of my ribs. That's a very comfortable position for me with the small pipes. I can walk around very easily. But for this instrument, that is the wrong place to have it. I found that The bellows was way too awkward to use. I was spending way too much effort, and I was getting tension in my hands, which is never good. So what I discovered is that on this side, on the far side, I want it pretty much right where the belt of my actual jeans are at. And then over here, a little bit higher, kind of just comes up a little bit. And then you want it kind of pretty far forward. It's actually the face of the bellows is facing more out, or more forward than out to my side. And I always have to get it a little bit more snug than I think, because any kind of slack in here, you're going to feel when the bellows comes out. You don't want any slack. You don't want to waste any of that motion. So you'll probably, if you're like me and you're starting out, even if you have a little bit of bellows experience, you'll kind of probably fidget about how high up or low on your arm this strap is as well. But this feels pretty good, right? I can get my elbow all the way down, and my hand stays in the same spot. Right, that's going to be important here in a second. So the other thing that I figured out is this this blowpipe. When it came from David, this plastic was about 2 or 3 inches longer than it is now. I cut it back twice to find a size that worked best for me. And one of the ways in which I discovered that, let me plug it in here, is that when the bellows was all the way down, and I used to have the bellows a little bit further to the side. Just a second ago I was saying it needs to face more forward. Well, with the bellows all the way to my side and then all the way closed, I couldn't reach the chanter anymore, right? So I was not able to get a full depression of the bellows. So that was one of the reasons that I've now moved this around further this way. And then of course in doing that, it pushes the bag back. So then I had to shorten this so that everything still fits. Second thing, every video that you'll see or teacher that you'll have will talk to you about dropping your leg a little bit, which is definitely something that you want to get used to. And I actually have, so because I'm starting out, just for consistency, I do have a little bit of leather to use as a popping strap to kind of close off the chanter for a little bit of consistency. Sometimes I'm wearing jeans, sometimes I'm wearing shorts, so it's against the skin of my leg. So this is just for consistency. And then in terms of the bag, I try to lift it up a little bit, but not like get it way up in my armpit, just because mechanically that's a little difficult every time you go to play, but also it can put a little too much, for me, a little too much tension on the neck of the bag here. So next thing that I learned was how to hold mostly on the top hand, right? So for the Highland pipes, all the holes are the same, but the style is different. And one of the things that I learned in the cutting notes, right, which is just these grace notes that you play on the top hand, is that when I was holding it a little bit more the way that I would on the Highlands, which is more of the fingertips on the top versus the middle, like we do on the bottom, that I had a lot of tension on this ring finger, that I was holding the chanter, and so it was really difficult to play those cutting notes. As you'll see with some Highland pipers who started young, and definitely a lot of Uilleann pipers, if you look at some videos, you'll see they all have their hands rotated over, right? So it's not the tip of the finger, but rather the middle pad of the finger. That's a little bit hard for me to get used to because I've had over 5 years of playing this way, but it definitely helps with the correct posture. I can get the chanter against my leg more consistently. I can hit these cutting notes much more consistently, and it just really just feels more comfortable with the length of the neck on this bag. So there we go. That was some of the stuff that I learned about how to put this instrument on, because you do wear it. Oh, and final note. One of the reasons I'm sitting in my living room here in my apartment and not my office, which is right over there, which is where all of my other music stuff is that my office chair does not have removable armrests. So until I get a different stool or something like that, I am using the ottoman here in my living room to do this, because you can't have armrest. You can't sit in a chair with armrests and play this instrument. So with that, let me get on to what I've been learning. Okay, So because I have a good amount of piping experience, there's a few super beginner things that I either skipped over or I picked up really, really quick. A lot of beginner Uilleann pipe tutorials will have you start just going straight into playing some notes like an A, or a little scale up and down, something like that. I'm not going to go through any of that on this video because A, it's a little boring, and B, it was not something that I had to work at really hard to get all of those correct. But I do have a basic little tune here that was kind of one of my first real proper exercises. It's in Gaelic, and I honestly can't pronounce it. It's a little slow air, and it's mostly a scale, which is why it's this first lesson. So it's all in the first octave. I don't have to jump octaves on this one. And one of my lessons, one of my practice routines for this is to play it completely legato as you would, or as you have to on the Highlands, where there's no break between the notes. But because of the closed chanter, you can also play staccato. So then I play through the whole tune staccato. It's like a very deliberate staccato. You'll hear it when I play that. And then after I do that, I'm actually going to try and go back and play it as a tune with maybe a little bit of style, a little bit of flourish. So, but right now, no cutting notes, no vibrato, no stylistic choices, just a practice exercise. Also, I have just one drone going. I don't know if you can see on this video. I've got the bass taped off, as well as the tenor. It's the tenor. Just this middle drone is going right now. All right, so there it was, completely legato. Again, it's not super refined. I'm just starting. I have seriously less than 10 hours of practice on this instrument, and maybe even less than 5. But now I'm going to give it a go completely staccato. All right. And just to bring it all together, here is how with my skill level right now, how I might play it as an actual tune. Okay, not too bad. But there you go. There's my sort of first lesson. I've got a few other things that I'm working on. But that's literally the first thing on this page. And when I come back, I'll walk through some of the other stuff I've been taking a look at, maybe even revisit this if I've gotten better at it. And with that, I will just say thank you for watching. Cheers.